Many times as a poultry farmer, you keep wondering, what else is gulping my money? Of course, feed is taking even more than 70% of the total cost of production. But sometimes when you look at the profit, you look at the cost, you now be thinking, what else am I spending on? Where else is the money going? I've got an answer for you. Have you ever thought about feed wastage? Do you know as feed is taking more than 70% of the cost of production? If you value everything that is going into feed wastage, you will realize that the percentage that the feed is taking is even far higher than what you can imagine. My name is Tunde Agbola. I'm a quality management professional. You are welcome to my platform. This is where we talk about feed quality. We talk about raw materials quality. We also mention things about the production and management tips so that you will be able to have excellent production that will lead you into massive profit. If that resembles what you are looking for, just fasten your seatbelt and fly with me to the zone of knowledge, where we'll be talking about channels of feed wastage. You know, feed, as we have known, it's the one that is taking so much out of our capital. Get money from banks, get it from contribution, get it from savings, you will still spend the highest amount on feed procurement. And if you are also a feed miller, definitely raw material procurement and every other things that are going into feed will take the largest chunk of your budget. However, you need to look at where the feed is going, because if we don't look at where the feed is going, we will not even be able to know the actual amount of feed that we are giving to our livestock. So in this series called Feed Wastage, this is another session where we will be dissecting different aspects of our operation where the feeds are getting wasted. And you know what? You may not even know about it. But today's video is going to be a eye-opening session whereby you'll be able to pick the one that belongs to your farm, and you'll be able to gather your staff and educate them so that you will rescue all these aspects and the feed will be conserved and used appropriately. Number one, let's look at where the feed is coming from. I mean, the packaging of the feed, even from the source. Many feed millers do not have in place what is called quality control or quality assurance, which will take care of assessing the quality of things that are going into feed production. They could get the feed production right, they could get the protein right, get the energy right. But in the aspect of checking of the bag that they will use to package the feed, they will just get it wrong. And from there will be leakage of the feed in the bag. The leakage may not be so prominent, because if it's very prominent, they will have noticed it even right from where the bagging is being done. But sometimes the leakage can come in a tiny way, to the extent that the moment the bags of feed are being passed from one place to the other, maybe from the feed milling plant to the store of the distributor, on and on till it gets to the farm, the weight of even the feed in the bag will have reduced drastically because of the tiny leakages. You know, it's a common knowledge that poultry feed in Nigeria comes in 25 kilogram bag, except on maybe exceptional cases. If the feed is now getting leaked and this is not detected early, that means by the time it gets to the farmer, when it gets to the birds, it will have become something around 20 kilogram. Who knows? And the 5 kilogram that must have gone away from it must be 20% of the whole cost per bag of that feed. That is why the feed millers must put in place a standard quality assurance program that will take care of conducting checks on different aspects of the feed milling process, including the bags to be used for the packaging. If this is properly addressed, the amount that will be getting to the farmer will be the actual amount that is purchased. Number two is the spilling of the feed while it is being served to the chickens. Most times, the pen attendants will be very, very careless in handling the feed, probably because they don't know the amount the farm owner must have spent in buying the feed and getting it across to the farm. Now, when the feed is being served, it is required that the pen attendant becomes very careful when he is putting the feed in the feeder, because if he's doing it with so much energy that is beyond the required, a lot of the portions of the feed will get wasted. Some will pour on the floor and in the walkway in between the two cages, and some will even pour inside the pit, and this will become useless because it will have mixed up with the poultry droppings. Do you now want to separate that and say you want to give it to the chicken? It is not possible. So that is a channel of wastage, and this needs to be addressed. How will this be addressed? This will be done by properly educating the pen attendants so that they will know the rate at which they should be pouring the feed into the feeder, the feeding trough, so that none of the feed is going to drop on the ground. They need to be told, even sometimes, the amount for which you procured the feed, so that they will know the value of what they are handling. This is highly essential and is a perfect way to prevent feed wastage. Another point, which is number 3, is the overfilling of the feeders. Pen attendants must be properly educated on the actual level where the feed should get to in the feeding trough, because in the process of the overfilling of the feeder, the feed will get wasted. The beak of the chickens will always be used to scatter the feed to an extent in order for them to choose the aspect they want to eat. And they want to be picking the bigger ones down to the ones of lower sizes in their feed. So in the process of doing this, a lot of feed will get wasted when the feeder is overfilled. So this also boils down to the education of the pen attendants, so that they will know what to do at the appropriate time. If you don't teach them, you will not be able to blame them. The next one, which is number 4, is the use of bad feeders. When the feeding trough that you are putting in the front of your chicken are full of leakages, there is no way you can guarantee that the amount of feed that you put in the feeder is what will be available for the birds to consume. That is why it is highly necessary for you to check the quality of your feeders. In your day-to-day activities on the farm, you need to know whether your feeder is leaking. Is it the one that can still be mended? Is it the one that you need to condemn totally, so that the feed will not be getting wasted at all times? Number 6, let's talk about poor feed management in the pen house. We just talked about the feeder that is leaking. Now, sometimes even the water line will be leaking, and the pen attendant will not be able to do anything to correct it. Even sometimes they will have called for the people that will repair it, and they will not turn up, or they must have reported to the farm manager, and the farm manager is displaying nonchalant attitude about the issue of the leakage of water. And most times in some cages, the water line will be above the feeding trough. Any attempt for you to mismanage the water system, the water is going to pour into the feed, and this will mess up the quality of the feed. So the longer you delay the repair of the pipe that is being reported to be bad, then the more you expose your feed into damage or even wastage. Because when the water pours into the feed, the area where the water pours into will not be consumed. Most times, the birds will refuse to eat that portion. And what will happen, especially if that portion is left till the second day, the feed will become very bad. And over time, that portion will become caked. The mold will grow there, and that could now be the source of one disease or the other to your chicken. This needs to be avoided by putting in proper place the water system, especially when it is reported that one is not okay. Please fix it as soon as possible. Number 7, let's talk about the rodents. The rodents do constitute a lot into feed wastage. When you are the type of farmer that do not control rats on your farm, you will always lose large portion of your feed to rodents. Rodents do not know where not to go. They will only refuse to come to where you do not welcome them. The moment your farm remains unkempt or you do not have any way of controlling them on your farm, they will make the place their abode and they will build mansion if you allow them. That is why you need to have a proper rodent control system. When you have a proper rodent control system, you may not be able to completely eliminate them, but you will put them in check in a greater way. And when you do this, the level of feed that you will be wasting through rodents will reduce drastically. And you know, when they eat big. A single rodent can even eat times 2 of the feed that the actual bird in the cage will eat in a day. You know, sometimes the thief eats better than the owner. So it is very okay for you to have a standard rodent control system so that your feed wastage through that channel will be highly addressed. Number 8 looks like the number 7 that we just finished. Let's talk about the strange birds. Birds do have their way in many farms. They go as far as eating in the feeders of the chicken. Why? Because they have a very free access into the pen house. That is why you need to block all the channels where these strange birds, where these wild birds can gain entrance into your pen house. You know, when you allow these strange or wild birds to be having access into your pen house, you are not only entertaining big space for feed wastage, you are even opening your door in a bigger way for strange diseases, deadly diseases, dangerous ones, because these birds, these wild birds, are great vectors of different diseases. So when you keep them away from your farm or from inside your pen house, you are doing 2 things. You are preventing feed wastage and you are preventing dangerous diseases from kicking off from your farm. Number 9, let's talk about pest infestation. Pest infestation will occur when you allow the feed to overstay in your store or when you do not store them appropriately. And sometimes pest infestation can be so bad to the extent that within few days the feed may become very useless. The feed may become unusable in the farm because most of these pests do go deeper into the feed to destroy it within a short period of time, and this will bring up a great loss to the farm. So it is very essential for you to store your feed appropriately. Make sure that the proper ventilation occurs in your storehouse. Make sure there is proper netting of the windows and the doors that lead to the storehouse. When you do this, you will save your feed greatly from pest infestation. Number 10, let's talk about the use of wrong feeder. You know, I mentioned bad feeder the other time. I mean, the feeders that are leaking. This time around, we are talking about the wrong feeder. What do I mean? A situation whereby you are using tray feeder for adult birds. You are using tray feeder for birds that will nearly go into the cage. And this has been a kind of experience I had on a farm where the birds that are supposed to have been caged are being fed with tray feeders. And it wasn't surprising to see the place where they are dumping the poultry droppings filled with poultry feed visibly present in their droppings. It's not that the birds pass out feed while they were defecating, but a great amount of feed has been scattered by these adult birds. Because when you are using tray feeder, it is very easy for the birds to enter into it and scatter it. So it is the right thing for you to use the appropriate feeder that will fit the age of the birds when you are rearing them. When you don't use the appropriate feeder, you stand the chance to lose a lot of portion of your feed, and this is a great channel for feed wastage. Number 11, Let's talk about bad storage. Bad storage can come up when you do not properly classify the feed in the storehouse. Maybe you do not tag them appropriately. You do not group them appropriately. And at the end of the day, even the feed that came in yesterday is going out into the pen house while you still have the feed of last week in your store. So when you store your feed, it is better for you to tag appropriately. Know the date that you collect them, know the date that they are due to be served, so that you will not be mixing them up. It is proper for you to observe FIFO, first in, first out. This is highly essential in order to prevent feed wastage at all times. Number 12, wrong feeding or incorrect diet. This comes up in a situation whereby you are giving chick smash to the layer. You are giving the highly powdered feed that is supposed to be given probably to the chicks. You are now giving to the layers. They will not eat appropriately, and you will now have a lot of feed that gets wasted. They will be struggling to eat, and they will be using most part of their energy that is supposed to go into the production. They will be wasting it in dealing with the powdered feed. Also, when you give the feed that is meant for layers, especially in terms of particle size, you now go ahead and present it to the chicks. How will they eat? They will not touch the feed because the particle size is too big for them. So it is highly essential for us to give the feed of appropriate size, appropriate particle size to the necessary category of the livestock, of the poultry birds that we are dealing with at all times. This will prevent greatly the feed wastage. Number 13, let's talk about the leftover management. Sometimes when your feed remains yesterday, if you don't give appropriate information, appropriate training to your pen attendants, some of them, don't be surprised that they will pour that feed away, thinking that the new feed is supposed to come around today. But there are ways by which you manage the leftover. I'm not saying you should put the leftover, especially from chicks, that is filled with poultry droppings, that you should now transfer it to the one they will eat the following day. But when you use appropriate feeder, the necessary feeding troughs, there is no problem when you mix the feed for today with that of yesterday, but it has to be done with proper knowledge. But if you discover that the feed that was left yesterday had become corrupted, maybe with water, with poultry droppings and some other things, you are not advised to continue with it because it can become problematic. It can cause a lot of problems for your chicken. That's why it's always good to put everything in order, to do what you're supposed to do, so that feed will remain fresh at all times. The last point of discussion in the channels of feed wastage is pilfering. And you know, this concerns human being. That is why you need to put in place the checks and controls concerning your farm, concerning your farm staff. Hope nobody is stealing your feed. Hope nobody is putting some handful of feed into their pockets to go and feed their own chickens at home. You need to make sure that all these channels are guided and monitored appropriately so that you will not be losing a lot to feed wastage. I hope I have gone a long way to speak about all these channels of feed wastage, and this will make all of us to go back to our farms and discuss with our pen attendants and our workers generally, so that they will realize all the aspects where they've been failing and they will make appropriate correction. So as a form of mini training, just let your workers watch this video together. Let your pen attendants also watch it so that they will be able to learn all those areas directly. You can also share it among your friends, share it on all platforms, share it to the farmers, share it to all the livestock producers, so that everybody will have the understanding of what feed wastage is about. You will enjoy this by putting in place proper check at some times. Check what they are doing. Set somebody in motion, probably the farm manager, to be going around, or the farm supervisor, They should be going around in order to monitor the way they are serving, the way they are taking care of their water channels, the way they are storing the feed. Everything must be monitored so that a lot of the portions of our feed will get directly to the chicken they are meant for. So with this, several losses that we are accounting for secretly that are being contributed to by feed wastage will become rescued and prevented, and this will boost profit to an appreciable level. In case you have questions or observations, please put everything in the comment section, and peradventure you need our services, maybe in the area of you want to know the status of some feed and raw materials, you want to check the approximate composition, mineral analysis, and some other things, we are always available. Consultancy, farm monitoring, farm audit, you can contact us through this number. In case you find value in this video, please click the like button, and if you are not yet part of our subscribers, please click the subscribe button and even the notification bell, so that anytime our quality related video comes out, it will get directly to you, because you will be notified. I thank you so much for watching this video. Till next time I come your way with another great topic in quality discussion, I want to urge you, please keep operating excellently so that your profit will always be on the high side. Thank you.